Okay, Chris from Gardensteading here. I am going to plant a blueberry, and it is not this blueberry. I've actually got this quite healthy looking one here, which does have quite a bit of fruit on it and is really vigorously growing at the moment. That's going to be going in this little Birdie's 700ml round, basically garden bed here behind me. Now, the reason that I'm putting it in here is this is a nice sunny spot. I don't want to plant my potted blueberry because it's going quite well. This has actually been with us for quite a number of years, as you can probably see from that main stem there. It was with us in the apartment. I think we've had it probably 6 or 7 years now. We've had quite a lot of fruit off it as well, and it has been quite successful. In the apartment, I did put up some shade cloth on the little veranda to protect it a little bit, but it was pretty harsh conditions. It was quite dry, it was quite sunny. When it was hot, it was a very unforgiving kind of area, and this plant has done exceptionally well. But I'd really like to get some blueberries in the ground and kind of expand out how much of a crop we're getting, because blueberries are also quite expensive. Love the fruit, especially homegrown. They tend to be much just a much richer fruit. They've got a bit more flavour, they've got a bit of tartness to them. Really, really nice. The best of bought blueberries is what you'd pretty regularly get off your tree, and I didn't find there was that much in the disappointment side of things. So I think this is a great thing to grow. They do like a fair bit of sun. They basically want to be grown in, the one thing everyone agrees on, some rose, not so much the rose side of things, but the gardenia and azalea. The azalea mix is what everyone recommends for putting your blueberries into. I honestly have no idea what we planted this original blueberry in. It's been in the same potting soil for years in kind of like a self-watering pot. When the pot gets too much water in it, I do just tip out all the excess water, and it's gone for years quite successfully like that. You do have to keep an eye on it if you're kind of going that kind of strategy, because you could drown the plant in a pot like that. But because it's a more precious plant to us, always kept it alive, I guess you'd say, and it's still doing really well after the move. We haven't found a permanent position for it in the pot. Maybe it'll eventually go in the ground. I'm not really sure at this stage. But in the meantime, we're going to get this one in the ground. We did go for a slightly more expensive pot. So we went for, this is a $21 Australian pot. You can get much smaller ones, but they're like 13, which didn't seem like the best proposition as far as value. This is the Nellie Kelly Sunshine Blue blueberry, and it's pretty simple stuff. So they're like low pH, frost tolerant. You can grow it in tubs. Obviously, you want the well drained, which is good here, and sun to part shade, which again, this location will be good. It gets more of the morning sun, so that slightly gentler sun. The afternoon, it'll be a little bit more shaded, especially late afternoon by the house. And then in summer, when this tree gets some more branches on it, it'll probably be a shadier position as well. Whether it's sunny enough in summer will remain to be the question. However, I want it here because this is our little internal garden area, which is a bit more protected. The wallabies can't get in here. We can keep an eye on things growing, and it's going to be the blueberries up here. I'm going to put one in the corner. I might put another one just down there. A little bit further down, I'm going to put in a blackberry, and then I think a little bit further down again, maybe past all the vegetable gardens that I'm planting, I'm going to put in a raspberry. And that's mainly because the raspberry will be right down where it's much sunnier, where the blackberry, I think it can do with a little bit less sun. So we're trying to get them in the positions which will be ideal for each of those plants. Whether that's going to be successful, I don't really know at this stage, but the blueberry seems like the easiest plant. The only challenge in this little location here is we're on a bit of a slope down, and I'm going to dig that Birdie's garden bed in so that it's flat and level, not like my nectarine. And then I'm just going to put some of the potting soil in. The other thing I really like about this is, while obviously I could put it in a pot, I like the idea of having them on the ground, because the ground itself does hold moisture. It makes the plants a little bit more resistant to drying out. And while the flip side of that is that maybe they could retain too much moisture, which I don't think is a problem on this kind of incline, with the drainage we've got. Coming from the city where I had to grow everything in pots, I'm really looking forward to trying getting things in the ground and seeing how I can go with them there. But I'm still going to be using a fair bit of this potting mix. It's just going to be going, as I said, mixed in with a bit of the regular soil here. That's going to be countersunk in. I'm going to level it out so it looks good. And as I think I was just trying to say, the thing I like about these little birdies 700 ml beds, they're the round ones. They're very inexpensive to start off with, which is great. And while getting enough of these to match one of their, say, 2.1 by 1.1 metre beds is probably going to end up being a similar amount of money, these being quite low, they're only, I think, 30 centimetres tall or 270 centimetres tall. They don't require a lot of soil. So if you don't want to spend a heap of money filling your beds up, particularly if you don't have good soil at home, these are an ideal option. They'll keep your costs down in buying the bed. Pots can be quite expensive, so it's probably not that different to buying a pot. It might use a little bit more soil, but again, that soil should last a long time, and then you can kind of build it up with some compost and stuff like that and put, some fertilizer and things on the plant as you go. But yeah, we're just gonna try and do it right from the beginning, and then we'll see how we go. One thing that I did find interesting, and that I think probably when we got our original blueberry was something we thought about, but then I haven't thought about it for many, many years, is that apparently some blueberries will be self-pollinating and others benefit from having extra plants. And one thing I did see people saying is that the more plants you have, kind of the better they'll fruit and the better they'll pollinate. So that's what we're definitely going to be aiming for here. Maybe I'll get really cheeky and put 3 in a row, but I don't know if I'm going to take it to quite that extreme because there's so many things to go in the garden at this stage. Putting 3 beds in with the same plant would be a little bit crazy. Okay, losing the light, the insects are starting to come out in force, but I've got this countersunk into the ground. I've used my level to get it pretty good. It is not perfect, but looking across, it's still a little bit tall at the back. Not too bad. Across, we're looking pretty good. It's close enough that it's not going to do my head in the way the nectarine does. Now all I need is a piece of cardboard that I'm going to stick in there, and then I'm going to chuck my azalea and potting mix in, and then basically we're just going to chuck our blueberry in, give it a good water, and we're good to go. And that should hopefully be that plant sorted. It's probably too big a garden bed for that on its own. I might put it off center and then see whether we can add something small for the other side, maybe a herb or something like that that grows well with blueberry. I'll have to do a bit of research to see what might work in that situation that's not going to mess up the soil, the pH balance, anything like that, and that the blueberry won't be competing with too much. All right, we've chucked some cardboard in the bottom, roughly sliced up to size, and then we're just going to chuck in our azalea mix, and we're almost there. That's some nice loamy soil there. Now, this garden bed is countersunk into the ground, so it needs less soil, but 2 of these 25 litre bags of the azalea mix have pretty much filled it up. You might, if you had it on a flat surface, need 3 or 2.5, but putting the pot in is also going to use up a bit of space, and it's one of the first times the amount of bags of soil I bought to do something have actually pretty much done the job. I am going to chuck the plant, because it's in one of these bigger pots, down in this bottom corner where there is essentially just that little bit more depth for their roots. I'm actually going to put it in this back corner here, because that way I'm thinking if I end up putting another small one in or something else, this isn't going to totally overshadow it. I'll get this out, hopefully without losing too many of these flowers. You can see there, that's it. A little bit root bound. We'll give it a water and we're good to go.